What's up, folks? Let me just post this in a few places before I get started. And let me know if the audio is working. Is it too loud, too soft? Can you hear me? Let's see. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so thank you guys for tuning in on a Saturday. I'm busy tomorrow, so I just decided to move the live stream by a day. And I think there's a lot to talk about, and I know a lot of people just want to hear, I guess, what I'm planning for with Arbitrum and Fantom. But just before I get started and go over this topic, let me just go over a few housekeeping items. First, I want to thank the sponsors of this show, Attack on Titan. Without this sponsor, this show would not be possible. They're one of the best anime series to ever launch. I think it's an action series, but depending on who you are, you may even call it a horror show. So obviously it's a joke, but I thought it was pretty on brand. That being said, the last thing I want to go over is Gitcoin, because a few days ago I announced that I posted my Gitcoin Grants. I'm gonna spend like 2 to 3 minutes on this, so hang in there. But what Gitcoin Grants is, it's a way for the community to raise funds for public goods in the crypto ecosystem. And the definition of a public good is a commodity or service that is provided without profit to all members of society, either by the government, an individual, or an organization. An example is VFAT tools, right? I use VFAT almost every day to check out new farms, and you can use it as well, and it's totally free to use. You don't, like, when you use it, you don't really pay them, right? You just use it for free, and you kind of just take it for granted. And also, I believe that my channel is also a public good because I spend a lot of time making these videos, making these slides, doing the research, but I don't run ads, I don't have paid shows, I don't have, I guess, like random sponsors, right? So you guys just watch my content, you like it, you subscribe, you click link, you click like, and you just walk away with some more knowledge, right? And I don't really expect much in return because I just think the topic is interesting, and I like, I guess, educating more people about the power of DeFi. But I do hope that, I guess, some people appreciate my content, and you can, I guess, express that by supporting me on Gitcoin Grants. Because here's an example of Gitcoin grants for VFAT. They raised 33K, but you see that for round 10, this time around, they raised $700, but they have this thing called matching, quadratic funding. What that is when, I guess it's a way for the community to, I guess, support things that they actually appreciate, where the number of contributors matters more than the amount funded. So, it doesn't matter if one whale donates 10K to me. A project where 10,000 people donate $1 each, it's going to get more funding than anyone else. So, for example, right now I have $1,000 donated across different people, where the matching is $26 just because only 15 people expressed, I guess, their support. But for Anthony Sassano, he raised roughly the same amount, but from 200 contributors, right? So on average, $5 per person, and he gets a lot of, I guess, matching, right? Just because the community, I guess, as long as there's more people, then the person where, I guess, the grant with more people supporting it is going to get more matching. So if you support my content, or if you appreciate my channel, please at least consider donating even $1 to my grant, just because, the more people, the better. I get more matching, etc. I'm not like begging up. It's not totally necessary, but, something to consider. Because I do want this channel to be ad-free. I don't want to have to say sponsored by BlockFi or stuff like that every single video. So hopefully this can be a way for my yield farming channel to I guess fundraise through the community. That being said, let's get on to, I guess, the main topic of what am I planning to do with Fantom, Arbitrum, etc. Okay, so in my most recent video, I talked about Aave rewards on Polygon going down, and I was pretty sad about it. I wasn't wearing my farmer hat because I just was not excited, right? And I at the end of the video, I also expressed my interest in exploring other chains, right? And this is two I wanted to go over was Fantom and Arbitrum, right? Because Arbitrum is being hyped up, right, as the first layer 2 to launch on the Ethereum ecosystem. And Fantom, I think the TVL is kind of growing, and I see it on my feed. So I just wanted to do more research, do my homework, and I learned a few things, and I kind of developed a thesis on what makes these blockchains successful, right? These layer 1 successful. And I'll just go over that, and I guess the conclusion will be like, given my thesis, is Fantom or Arbitrum worth it? And which one will be more successful? And this is something that can apply to other chains as well, such as Solana, Avalanche, etc. So I just wanted to do a quick little case study on Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, and Polygon, because if we think that, let's say, Fantom is going to be successful, then hopefully we can study what happened with these three most successful, I guess, DeFi ecosystems. Maybe not decentralized finance, but like the ecosystem itself. And then after we study it, if we can apply, I guess, the knowledge we found there, right, from this case study, then maybe we can come to a better conclusion. So the first ever DeFi craze to ever happen was on Ethereum for DeFi Summer 2020. I think it got kickstarted in June. So like, what actually kickstarted this and what made it so successful? I actually wasn't a participant in DeFi Summer just because I wasn't in crypto back then. So I just had to like do some research on, I guess, like looking back. But what essentially kickstarted DeFi Summer 2020 was the liquidity mining incentives by Compound. If you don't know what Compound is, it's similar to Aave. It's a bank, it's a money market, you can borrow and lend. And it's similar, what essentially started was something similar happened where people could borrow and lend on Compound and earn Compound tokens, right? And when this happened, a lot of people got excited. A bunch of people bridged their assets from like Coinbase or Binance to MetaMask, and they just like started mining Compound. And as more and more funds got on Compound, a bunch of other farms came in, right? So as an example, like Uniswap, SushiSwap, I mean, I'm not going to go over all the farms that came in, like all the AMMs, all the great products, but it kind of kickstarted this entire ecosystem where Compound essentially reached critical mass liquidity, and critical mass liquidity led to all these other AMMs, decentralized exchanges, and yield aggregators to essentially flourish. How about Binance Smart Chain? Well, this happened in early 2021, and it surprised everyone, including myself. I heard about Binance Smart Chain in January, but I kind of was like, you know what, like, CZ, screw that guy, it's centralized, I don't want to deal with it. But in hindsight, it's obvious, but it's a scaling solution for Ethereum. It might not be decentralized, but it essentially allowed everyone to experience, I guess, DeFi on Ethereum on like a scaling solution, right, with lower transaction fees. And I think what kickstarted Binance Smart Chain was PancakeSwap, which was the farms plus AMM, and Venus. Venus is the money market for Binance Smart Chain, where you can just borrow and lend, and it was relatively trusted. I think it came out of the Binance, I guess, launchpad, and I believe that earlier on you were also being paid to borrow and lend. Maybe it wasn't being paid to borrow and lend, but it was like essentially free to borrow money, and then it just like started off a bunch of liquidity. Yes, I know Venus got exploited, and yes, this is like the downside, right, of something that's pretty new, that's not battle tested. But despite this hack, there's still a lot of, I guess, TVL on Binance Smart Chain. There's more TVL on BSC than on Polygon. And because like once, I guess, liquidity enters the ecosystem, some people might leave, right, to Ethereum or Polygon, but most people just stay because it's just convenient. And PancakeSwap still has pretty good farms, right? So, once these ecosystems reach, I guess, critical mass liquidity, the ecosystem just tends to thrive. Maybe it's not as great as it was like 4 to 5 months ago, but it's still great, right? I mean, people are still making money on Binance Smart Chain. Maybe not from like the dog tokens, but from the farms itself, right? From like Alpaca, etc. Lastly, I want to go over Polygon. Was the last DeFi boom that happened, which I covered intensely on my channel. Like I mentioned, when I missed out on Binance Smart Chain, I was like, you know what, the next thing that comes up that's like a scaling solution, I'm going to ape into it and I'm just going to go ham. And that's essentially what I did. And, that's one of the reasons that my channel has grown so much, because essentially in late April, I'm like, I ported funds over, I bought some quick swap, I sold some QuickSwap. Now I'm degen yield farming. I bought a bunch of Matic and I got like a 4x on it, sold it, and now I'm just farming with stablecoins. And that's just like the playbook for Polygon Matic, which I employed. But let's think about what got it to where it is now. Well, in my opinion, what got Matic's kickstarted was like this DeFi fund, like this $150 million incentive where they're trying to partner up with these DeFi blue chips to essentially just bring their app from Ethereum to Polygon, right? And this liquidity mining program with Aave, I don't know if you can see the number here, but this was the Aave incentive program where you were being paid to borrow and lend, which is really, really powerful. And this program essentially got like Aave to like 8 billion TVL at its absolute peak. It's down now, obviously, but everyone piled into Aave just because it was great. I mean, I was being paid to borrow. I was farming with it, earning high APR, and once the liquidity is there, then like all the farms come in. And yeah, also QuickSwap. QuickSwap was on Polygon before Aave, but it already had a bunch of liquidity. Then SushiSwap came over, and yeah, essentially that. So in summary, I think my summary for like successful ecosystem is that there has to be a trusted and reliable money market, as well as an AMM with a decent farm, right? Money market meaning borrowing and lending, similar to Aave, because the Ponzi's will come later naturally, right? Because I guess what makes these ecosystems exciting are the Ponzi's, are the farms, like the yield farms, right? But the yield farms won't come if there's no liquidity, right? These developers aren't going to make these farms if there's no money in the ecosystem. So there has to be incentive for people to bring their funds over to these ecosystems, and the way that happens is through liquidity mining incentives, right? For example, Aave on Polygon. So that being said, that being my framework and that being my thesis, let's apply that to Fantom and Arbitrum to see, do I really see this thing growing in the next few months, right? So let's start with Fantom. So Fantom seems to have potentially a good AMM. So Fantom seems to have potential with good AMM, right? Spirit and SpookySwap, right? But I don't really see a good money market coming in recently, because you can argue that Cream is a fork of Aave, and you can argue that, hey, Cream is already on there, so isn't that good enough? But I argue that it's not good enough, because it doesn't have focus isn't just the money market itself. It has to be trusted and reliable. And when I think about Cream, I think about this exploit that happened where $37.5 million was lost because of a loophole, right? And maybe they fixed these problems, maybe they had more auditors, maybe it's squeaky clean. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you think, right? It doesn't matter what I think. It matters, what matters is what the market thinks. Because if the market as a collective doesn't trust the money market, then people aren't going to deposit their funds there, right? And if you actually look at the TVL on Cream Finance, it's right now I think it's 15 million, which is nothing, right? Aave right now on Polygon has 5 billion, right? 15 million is nothing, and as long as there's no money market on Fantom, I don't really see this ecosystem grow. But once a money market does come on, right? Maybe Aave goes on, maybe Compound goes on, or maybe the Fantom Foundation creates their own money market. In that case, yes, I will ape in once that's there. However, because there's no money market, I am not interested yet, right? Focus on yet. And I know there's new projects like Aquarius Finance, I think, which is a fork of Liquidity, I believe. But yeah, I don't really see critical mass liquidity going on Fantom just because there's no good money market. Yeah. Oh yeah. Lastly, there is Curve, right? Curve on Fantom, which is pretty good. You can earn 3 to 4% on dollars, as well as 10 to 14% on Curve rewards. So it's kind of similar to what's already available on Polygon, but this could be a good way for you to farm Curve tokens. Lastly, let's go over Arbitrum, which is layer 2 on Ethereum. It's really hyped up, and it's supposedly coming out later this year. Oh, sorry, not later this year, later this month, hopefully. But given it's Ethereum based, I would not be surprised if it's delayed any further. Transaction fees aren't going to be that low, right? It'll be $2 to $4, which is really good compared to the Ethereum main chain, but not as good as Polygon or Fantom, or just Binance Smart Chain. But it's secured by the Ethereum blockchain. It's secured by the layer 1. So I see bigger players just being more interested in porting their funds over to Arbitrum than on any other side chain for example. And a recent interview with Hayden Adams, right, Uniswap, and CoinDesk, Hayden essentially said that liquidity mining will return to Uniswap very soon, right? And they already mentioned that they're going to be on Arbitrum. So this is like one check mark in the case that, okay, Uniswap is a blue chip, everyone likes Uniswap, everyone trusts it, and they're going to launch liquidity mining programs. Oh, I mean, that's potential. We also know that SushiSwap is going to be on there, right? So 2 big AMMs, as well as Aave. I believe Aave said they're going to be on there as well. So I think, with my thesis of needing a good money market and a good AMM with a farm, I'm more bullish Arbitrum because despite the higher fees, they have a good money market. It's more secure, right? And people will think it's more secure, and it is more secure. And I think people will look over the fees because would you rather be in an ecosystem with like 10 billion TVL with $2 fees or $100 million, I guess, ecosystem with like free transaction fees, right? If you have a small account, you might not be able to afford the $2 transaction fees, but that's what Polygon is, right? I mean, Polygon is still really good, given it has all these problems after Iron Finance, but I still think it's pretty good. So I think a lot of funds will naturally go to Arbitrum. Some will stay on Polygon, some will stay in Binance Smart Chain. But as soon as Arbitrum launches, I will be aping that shit. All right. Let's look at the chat. Okay, chat is completely just like random comments. So I'm just gonna move on. That's my thesis for these liquidity mining programs and like what makes these ecosystems successful. So Fantom, Arbitrum, and Optimism coming at some point. They got delayed, but Optimism, like once Optimism and Arbitrum goes live, I think that's where most of the action is gonna be. Okay. That being said, I went over Fantom. I went over all that. I'll just briefly look at the chat for questions. If not, I'm going to go over, I guess, what I've been farming and what my farming plans are. And then I'll go over the AMA with the pre-submitted questions. Did they announce rewards on Arbitrum? It's not officially announced, but if you go to the YouTube channel called Bankless, they have an interview / podcast with, I guess, the team members of Arbitrum. And they said that, there are liquidity mining rewards that these teams are planning, and most of these apps are ready, right? They're ready to launch, but Arbitrum is not opening the gates yet, just because they want like equal access for everyone, right? So like they don't want to just like launch Uniswap and Aave first, right? Because then all the money will go there. They want to launch like 20 apps or 30 apps at the same time, just so all these apps will get a good chance to get liquidity, etc. So I was told sometime in June, but you never know with these Ethereum developers. Yeah, and like the same can be applied to like Solana as well, right? Solana, I think the downside of Solana is that it's not really a downside, right? You can also argue it's a moat, a competitive moat, but Solana works in a totally different developing language, right? It uses Rust, meaning that you can't just copy and paste your code from Ethereum and bring it to Solana. You have to make these apps from scratch by yourself. So it's going to naturally take more time for Solana to have a bunch of apps already ready. So I think for me personally, Solana is going to be more of like a 2022 play. And this year I'll be focusing more on EVM stuff. Matic, Arbitrum, Optimism, etc. Yeah, okay, so the chat is just like people shilling random farms. So let me just go over my farms. Okay, so nothing has... this is the same as, I guess, what I showed on my last video when Aave rewards went down. And I mentioned that like I didn't want to just like reveal what I'm farming with my dollars, just because, I wanted to protect my APRs because I gotta make money too. But, I just like kept it secretive for 2 days, but now I'll just reveal it. It's not loading, but what I've been farming is something called QiDao, My Finance. I want to be really careful about talking about this because it is like a smaller microcap. So just to begin, this is not a long-term hold for me personally, right? This is just more of a short to medium term farm where I was just farming to accumulate these tokens. And if you've been like a long not even long, like on May 24th, I talked about Cheetah in the first place, right? Where I was just like farming it with dollars. Mematic is basically a stable coin. It's not like Iron where it's like fractionalized stablecoin. It's an over collateralized stablecoin, so it's a little bit safer. But talked about it on May 24th, talked about it on May 30th, talking about like the fundamentals, and then on June 2nd, I said I had like 880 chi. Right now, I'm almost at 1,000. I don't know if you can see here. Yeah, I'm almost at 1,000 chi. Once I get to 1,000, I'm gonna stop farming it. And yeah, like I said, like this is not a long-term hold, so please don't like market buy this. If this, please don't market buy this because it is a speculative token. It is a farm token. It is a farm token with some form of fundamentals. It's a Maker DAO fork, and the reason I thought it was interesting is because if you don't know what Maker DAO is, you deposit collateral and you borrow DAI against it, right? And everything is over collateralized. Same goes for Cheetah, right? You deposit Matic, right? And you can borrow up to 2/3 of the value of the collateral. And these loans are free, right? 0% loans. And the only fee that you pay is like the repayment 0.5% fee, as well as like when you start farming, you also have to pay a 0.5% fee. And they're also going to introduce staking. So full transparency, what I'm most likely going to do is once I get to 1,000, I'm gonna stop farming it. They're gonna introduce Chi-DAO staking, I think, sometime soon. So I'm probably gonna maybe stake 200 to 400, right? Just as like my moon bag, but the rest I'm just gonna sell for dollars because yeah, I just want to accumulate dollars right now, just because the market does look weak, and you know, I just don't want. Yeah, I've never talked about like a micro cap before, I guess, with like my channel. So I don't want to affect the prices too much, but here it is. Okay, and yeah, it's like trading at 280, whatever. So pretty good, right? I've been farming this for collectively like maybe 3 to 4 weeks, and that's like almost $3,000. Not bad, given the type of environment we're in. Also, I saw that Instadapp, they're also giving away tokens. So I don't really know how this works. I need to do more research, but if you like import your Aave position to Instadapp, you can earn like free tokens. Do your own research, because I haven't done my research yet. I just know that this is possible. You kind of have to import your Aave position, and you kind of have to manage your position inside Instadapp. I don't know what happens if you want to, I guess, export your position. So you know, I'll probably talk more about this, I guess, on Twitter or my Discord, maybe a new video. But Instadapp, I think, is like worth $10 or something, roughly, right? Which is like pretty good. But I don't really know the risks associated with it. So check. I think like if you had an Aave position before at certain time, you would get airdrop tokens. But do your research. Yeah. So I had a question about like. I get this question almost every video post where like, okay, like, can you like tell me like how you come up with the, like how you like decide what to farm, right? And like for the example of Chi-DAO, like I don't want to show this token. I just want to show like my mindset and my methodology, right? Because like how do I like differentiate between tokens that I farm and dump versus tokens that I farm and accumulate? Because Chi, I was farming it. It's not loading, but I was farming it when it was like 40 cents, right? I mean, this thing, yeah, it was like 45 cents. And I just held it because I thought it had some fundamental value. I kind of went over the fundamentals, right? It's like, okay, Aave rewards go down. Maybe there's demand for like a money market, which is less trusted. It's under 2 months old, but maybe there's demand for it. So I farmed and accumulated it. Now I think the valuation is kind of getting high. So, you know, I'm probably going to look to dump it at some point. Yeah, like I said, I'll stake some of it and then I'll dump the rest. So I guess my methodology is I use VFAT, right, which I covered many times on my channel, but it's essentially like a list of all these farms on like depending on the ecosystem, right? And yes, you can say that, hey, if I'm getting started right now, like this is way too much, like I can't go through all this. Well, a tip is like if the farm has the name Poly in it, like you can probably ignore it, right? Because Polydragon, like Polygage, Polycake, Polyrangers, like these are going to be like Ponzi's that went to zero. So maybe just focus your time on things like QuickSwap, Cometh, My Finance was up here somewhere. Yeah, like Chi, right? It was here early. So at the end of the day, you have to read. You have to do your own research, right? Because if the way you farm is like just blindly following what I'm doing, you're probably not gonna make that much money. Because the way to make money is, you gotta farm when the APRs are high. You gotta farm when people aren't really like when people were like ignoring the project, right? For example, people were ignoring Chi, so I farmed it and I just waited until the price went up. So you gotta, I guess, do your own research. And after you do your research, you have to like ask yourself, okay, like, is there fundamentals backing it? If not, this should be something I should be farming and dumping. For example, Titan, right? You should have been farming and dumping it on the way up. It's easy to say in hindsight, but it wasn't really backed by fundamentals. But QiDAO has some resemblance of fundamentals. I don't know if it'll work. It's not audited by the rug doctor because the code is complex. But I mean, there's already $135 million locked in here farming it. So maybe that can be an indicator of like the market collectively trusting it at some point. But this is just like, you got to do your own research. You got to come up with decisions yourself. If all you do is ask in the chat, like, what do you think about this farm? Then like, you're not really learning, right? The goal is to, like, the goal of this channel is to like teach you how to think, right? Not like just blindly ape what I do. That being said, went over my farm. Before I get into the questions, I'll just go over like what my plans are in the future, given the current market conditions. So this is a tweet from Rookhog, or Hedgehog, who I interviewed, I think like 2.5 weeks ago. He's an OG, and he said he had this tweet 2 weeks ago, which I thought was pretty compelling, where he said, when projects start rugging, as they have recently, it's essentially the equivalent of market selling tokens without regard for price. This is quite bearish and characteristic of subtle shift from bull to bear market mentality, right? And after I thought about this tweet, there was a rug on Fantom, right? Shadow swap. So I feel like there's been a lot more of these like projects that either rug or go to zero, like these lower quality projects. So I kind of thought back on this tweet and I was like, this is kind of feels bad. Because if you think about it, if you're a developer and you create a new project, right? Let's say it's 1 month old, and maybe the market is looking bearish, right? And the TVL is not growing, your token is not doing well, then it might make sense for you to just leave the project, right? Like, I made this thing called polypug or like poly whatever, right? And it's not getting any TVL. I don't really see this going anywhere, so I'm just gonna leave, right? When the developer leaves, it's called a soft rug, right? Where like he or she can't take your like funds like staked, but the token will go to zero just because the developer left. So I'm starting to see these trends, which kind of worries me. So even in the markets, I guess like investing in volatile assets, I'm kind of risk off. But also with regards to farming, I'm also going risk off, where after I'm done with QiDAO, after I get to 1,000, I'm probably going to take out my Bitcoin and Matic from Aave just because these rewards are so low. And yes, I could like use it as collateral and borrow against it. But, I don't really see that many great farms. I think it's time to go risk off just because of, this tweet. Because I think it's becoming more and more risky to get into these new forms, whether it be like hard rug or soft rug risk. So I do think Curve is still good. I mean, you can earn like 20% on your dollars, still good. 9% on Bitcoin, good. This I'm less bullish on because of impermanent loss, but something there. There's also good farms on QuickSwap and Sushi. I mean, these numbers, there's a bug. If you go to Sushi, there's like this, it's like, Polygon is like, Polygon is having issues after Iron Finance. So these APRs are not real. So I don't know what the real number is, but this is kind of weird. But I'm probably gonna get into the farms on, I guess for transparency purposes, I'll probably be getting the Curve after I farm QiDAO, and I'll probably farm on QuickSwap because like in a bearish environment, these rates will start to go down on stablecoin pairs because everyone is going to try to farm with their dollars. So for me personally, I might start farming, I guess, volatile pairs, maybe like Bitcoin and ETH, right? Because if you provide liquidity for Bitcoin and ETH, right, you are still open to impermanent loss, but I'm still uber bullish the prospect of both coins. So let's say you provide liquidity and ETH goes up, right? Well, the liquidity pool has to maintain a 50-50 ratio. So it's going to sell some ETH and buy more Bitcoin. Buy more Bitcoin, right? It's going to buy more of the undervalued or buy more of the underperforming asset. But if I'm providing liquidity for Bitcoin ETH, like I don't really care like if I have impermanent loss because I'm accumulating more of like the other token, which I'm bullish on. And I'm hoping that, like these rewards will make up for it, right? And same goes for ETH/USDC, ETHmatic, like 50%. Yeah, I mean, these farms are pretty good. Like on QuickSwap, I think these are pretty underrated. Like Matic, Quick, 100%. I don't know what the fuck is going on here with Titan, but I personally wouldn't touch this. ETH/USDT, 50%, 65% here. Aave ETH, interesting. Link ETH, interesting. Yeah, I think people overlook this stuff because I feel like people just like look for degen farms, but sometimes the good farms are right in front of you and you can just farm all these things. I don't know what TEL is, but yeah, 13% here, 100% on Quick. ETH Quick, 92%. Bitcoin USDC, 43%. There's BNB on here. Like, holy shit, like, when did that happen? There's Uni here, etc., right? But like I mentioned, to summarize, with like the collapse of Iron Finance, people aren't really happy, right? In Polygon, I think they're like, they're feeling like spam attacks and people are like kind of upset. It's like, dude, I can't get my transactions through. So that's why I'm keeping an open mind on other chains, right? I'm in the Arbitrum waiting room. When Arbitrum opens up to the public, I'm probably going to just take most of my funds from Polygon to Arbitrum just because I just think it's going to do well. And once Fantom has a money market that I trust and is reliable, then I'll also port funds over. So that's my game plan. Always do your own research, but this is kind of concerning, right? Like once you start seeing more rugs, that should be a warning sign that, hey, like what are the odds of this new farm rugging? And it's definitely higher, right? Percent chance is higher than it was a month ago. So always consider that. Yeah, this is crazy. Okay. That being said, what else? Yeah, let's just go over the AMA. And like I mentioned, I don't want to take questions from the chat just because people are trying to shill their favorite like Ponzi farm. So I always try to, let's say, I guess crowdsource these questions beforehand just so I can filter out the garbage. Okay. How long have I been going on? Okay, 33. Okay, pretty good. Does DeFi... I always like to start with like a funny question, right? Just because I've been talking about like fundamentals and like I feel like I'm just like going off and off and off. But first of all, like, does DeFi get you a lot of females? Well, given that my crowd is 96% male, definitely not. I feel like this is all of crypto. I guess all of finance in general. I feel like I don't know why there's so little diversity when it comes to crypto and like finance. But I guess crypto is like the intersection of tech and finance, which is just like predominantly like white male heavy. So maybe that's just like less appealing to women. I have a girlfriend, so like totally troll, but yeah. Next question, any advice on how to start farming if I only have $300 when I get out of the rat race? Well, sorry to break it to you, but you're not going to break out of the rat race with $300 with yield farming, right? Because the concept of yield farming is generating yield on your crypto assets, right? And those yields aren't going to be 1,000,000%, right? That's going to be sustainable. It's going to be like double-digit yield that's going to beat out a bank. So, I mean, also, ultimately, it depends what your goals are. If your goal is to turn this 300 into whatever big number, then, and that's like, assuming that this is like money that you can like, if you lose, it's fine. Then you're probably better off like investing in like small caps or like dog coins or like leverage trading, right? But if the goal with your $300 is to learn DeFi, right? Because you heard about Ethereum, you heard about DeFi, and you're interested in like learning more about the space, I always argue that the best way to learn about the space is to use these applications. So I always suggest with my tutorials in the past, take even like money that you can afford to lose, experiment with Aave, experiment with SushiSwap, provide liquidity, and learn about like how these things work. And once you do that, in the future, you're gonna like basically be able to differentiate between like the scams and like the good projects, right? That's gonna be popping up. Because if your way to invest in crypto is to just click on random videos that influencers are shilling you, it's like this 100x gem, like you're definitely not gonna make it. You have to do the research yourself. Because that's the only sustainable way. So, start little, experiment, find out what works for you, and yeah. And ultimately, like farming with $300, farming with $3,000, it's kind of the same. It just depends what your goals are. I kind of went over this. If you want to do it safe, you got to go for like Curve, Aave, Sushi, QuickSwap, etc. Assuming this is Polygon. Just because, the market is bearish, and in a bearish environment, more projects are likely to rug, especially if they're new, and with anonymous developers and whatnot. So I suggest that. Yeah, how to regain confidence in DeFi after the disaster. Yeah, so I think this is like the Iron Finance thing is really bad for DeFi just because it was all over the news. It was on CNBC. Like Mark Cuban got rugged. He lost like millions of dollars, right? And if you're in DeFi, like this doesn't really mean much, right? Because like the fundamentals haven't changed, right? Just some apes got wrecked, right? At the end of the day, that's what happened. But I guess from like the media perspective, people only read headlines. People only pay attention to the headlines. And the headline is that DeFi, or like Mark Cuban got rugged in DeFi. And if you're a billionaire, if you're an institution, or if you're like a retail investor that respects Mark Cuban, you're like, oh, I thought Mark Cuban was this knowledgeable billionaire about crypto. Now he just lost all his money. Like, what the hell? Like, how does that make any sense? So I think the risk tolerance, or I guess like the risk appetite in crypto is going to go down. That's why I'm focusing more on stablecoins and Bitcoin and ETH, right? The three safest assets in crypto. So, I mean, Iron Finance has nothing to do with like DeFi, right? It's just a Ponzi that collapsed. If anything, you should have if anything, it's like an additional data point that like fractionalized stablecoins generally don't work. Algo stablecoins just generally don't work. It's just a Ponzi at the end of the day. Yeah, so I kind of went over this as well in my last video, is that it probably doesn't make sense for you to deposit dollars and borrow dollars as using your dollars as collateral, because you might as well just take your initial dollars and farm with it, right? Because you're no longer being paid to borrow. So what I'm currently doing is I'm taking volatile assets, using it as collateral to borrow dollars. And right now, the delta here is 0.8%, right? So I'm paying 0.8% to borrow these dollars. Well, not really, because this is APY, this is APR. But let's just say I'm paying to borrow. But with my dollars, I'm earning 37% APR, right? So I'm outperforming the interest rate. So in that case, like I'm making money, right? If I'm paying 0.8%, but I'm earning 37% on my dollars, then by definition, it's a profitable farm, or it's a profitable strategy. Or is it? Yeah. So, yeah. Ape farming, you gotta do your own research. I mean, I have videos on how to ape farm, but I mean, I've mentioned this for like a month now. Like, I am not like really ape farming in this type of environment. Yeah. And this is kind of a redundant question as well. It's like yield farming isn't gonna be a way for you to like 10x your money, right? You could in some types of environments, like if you farm like a token that goes up in value, yeah, that could happen. But the majority of the farms out here right now are like just things that are gonna collapse after 3 days. So, me personally, not financial advice, but I'm just sticking with the safe ones: Curve, Quick, Sushi, and Aave. Okay, yeah. So I'll just quickly go over this. Like, Tune Finance, it's on Fantom. It's an algorithm coin trying to peg to Fantom. Like, I don't understand what the point of this thing is. Like, yes, it has high APR. Yes, you can probably make money farming it. But, like, why do we need a token that's pegged to the price of Fantom, right? Why don't you just buy Fantom itself? So, I just see this thing as a algo coin that's going to go to zero at some point, but maybe you can make money before it goes to zero. I mean, that's how I played the Malt token, right? I knew Malt was going to zero, but I made $500 in one day just because like everyone was showing it. So I think I'm seeing Tomb Finance a lot more on YouTube and on Twitter. People are showing it. Odds are it's going to go to zero at some point. I don't know when, but that's my opinion. I'm just like bearish the concept of algo stablecoins in general, and I think it's dumb how like a bunch of influencers like show it. I guess it's like an interesting idea, so people make videos on it, but I mean, I'm willing to eat crow if like this thing succeeds, but like what's the point of a coin pegged to the price of Fantom? Like why don't you just buy Fantom? Yeah, so Polygon Kyber, they're coming out on June 30th, so I would just follow them on Twitter. Yeah, so can you explain the best way to use curved convex? Kind of touched on this, I guess, maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago. But the resource I recommend is him, Justin Bram. He actually has a good YouTube channel. Like I feel like a lot of DeFi YouTubers don't get that much credit, but you know, when I see a good one, I'm willing to recommend it. Because I'm always looking for like good DeFi YouTubers that's like not like pumping shit, because it's really hard to come by, because I feel like there's a niche that's not covered on YouTube, right? Because I feel like 80% of crypto YouTubers just do TA. I mean, which is great. Like I follow a bunch of TA YouTubers like Technical Roundup, Ledger Status, you know, all those people, right? And I use like I guess like their data and like their knowledge and their opinions to affect like what my views are on the market. But no one really covers DeFi in like a sophisticated way, right? Most people, it's like, ooh, this coin is new, low market cap, it could 50x because it's a fork of this, and if it gets to that market cap, it can go 100x, which is like the most ridiculous like thought process ever. It's like 60 IQ stuff. Like Justin Bram, I think he works in DeFi as well, so I suggest his channel. It's pretty good. And once I find more good channels, I'll totally show it to, I guess, my audience as well, because we need more people like this. Yeah, so Alchemix as well. I guess I'm like talking more about like the Ethereum based applications. My thoughts on Alchemix is that I like the concept, I like the team, right? I like Scoopy triples, but I think it's more for passive people, like passive investors, I guess. Because what Alchemix is let's say you deposit $10,000, right, of DAI into Alchemix, you can borrow, let's say $5,000 against it, and that debt will be paid off over time using strategies from Yearn Finance, which in concept is great. Like maybe, you know, I like buy a car with 5K and like 3 years later, like I just have like a bunch of money left over and like my debt is paid off. But I feel like as a yield farmer, I can outperform like whatever APY or APR Yearn is offering, right? Because at the end of the day, like Aave, right, the liquidity mining incentives, I was being paid to borrow. So in its own right, it was a self-repaying loan, right? And if you're like a millionaire and you just like want to try it out, like Alchemix is like really cool. And I do think a lot of apps can be built on top of Alchemix. That's going to appeal a lot to like, I guess, more like financial primitives. But I don't like Alchemix, me personally, because I think I can outperform it. That's not to say anything bad about the coin, right? I have no thoughts on the coin, but the platform itself, I won't use because I can outperform whatever YFI is paying. I already covered it. Okay. Yeah, so I get this a lot. I talk about it like almost every week, but I have a spreadsheet where I like track all my P&L, right? It's not the most accurate. I think it captures like 90 to 95% of my P&L. But I guess just because like I've done so much with all these chains, I'm gonna have to use a software like Token Tax or like, I don't know, like whatever good platform is out there, because taxes with yield farming is almost impossible. And the tax laws are insane. Like it's ridiculous. I think taking Bitcoin and wrapping it into wrap Bitcoin is a taxable event, which is so ridiculous. But there are like all these tax stuff that like I don't want to deal with. So I'm just gonna pay someone to outsource it. I mean, I kind of went over this as well. And at the end of the day, like what incentivizes people to bridge their funds over is the liquidity mining programs. Like I sold some of my coins and brought them over to Polygon just because of the Aave awards, right? Same can happen. Same is going to happen for Arbitrum. Same might happen for Fantom. At the end of the day, these chains are competing with other chains for liquidity, because liquidity means their token will go up over time. So, I'm always on the lookout for liquidity mining programs, and I think that's, at the end of the day, that's how people, that's how ecosystems get money to go over on their chain. Yeah. So this question, like with these like farms with 4% deposit fees, like do they have any purpose? Are they used for like trading, lending, etc.? Like these are degen yield farms. Like they're designed to go to zero. Like 98% of these yield farms are designed to go to zero. The 4%, the deposit fee, 3% is being used to buy back the token, right? Or burn it. And 1% goes to marketing funds for the developers. But most of the time, the marketing funds is not used, and they're just going to pocket that. And once the token goes to zero, they're going to leave. So, I mean, these farms are really good in early May. Like you can backtrack my YouTube channel. I was like in this every single day, and I was like making lots of money. But that was when ETH was going to like 4K, right? Like we're in a super bullish environment. Now that we're in a bearish environment, it doesn't really make sense for you to take this much risk. And going back to this tweet over here, it's like projects have started rugging. Like, why take on that risk? Yeah, I kind of went over this as well. Because I guess with when you're running a yield farming channel, there's like a moral hazard where I guess my audience wants to see like really good farms, right? But if I talk about really good farms, then the APRs might get diluted and the quality might go down, right? That might be one option of a moral hazard. The second, that's not really a moral hazard, but you get the point. And the second reason is like, if I'm in a good farm and I don't want the yields to go down, then I may or may not like talk about it on my channel, right? Which is like, I guess economically selfish by me, but like like I said, I don't run ads, so like I have to make money somehow. So that's why I'm hoping Gitcoin Grants will help me like raise money to like live for my expenses. Because I mean, I can farm all I want for food, but like I still need to pay like bills, right? So maybe that, and if Gitcoin Grants don't work, then maybe I have to run ads, right? Just to like fund my channel, I guess. Or at the end of the day, maybe I just have to start a paid group where it's like a Benjamin Cohen model of I'll still make free content, right? Good content every single week, right? 3 to 5 videos. But only in my private group will I be sharing like, okay, I'm in these, right? I'm in these farms and yada, yada, yada. So, just being transparent with like how these things work. I mean, at the end of the day, like everyone does this, right? Like every influencer monetizes their content somehow. Right now, I don't, just because I just want to grow my channel and I want to, I guess, build trust with my audience, which I think I've done a good job of. But, like that doesn't pay the bills. So still thinking about it. Hopefully Gitcoin Grants do well. But yeah. Yeah, and maybe like also like if Polygon is like if Polygon is like not functioning, maybe I have to go back to Ethereum as I wait for the Arbitrum, right? Or Fantom. So maybe I will also make content on Ethereum. There's a lot to cover. There's a lot of farms out there. I'm just trying to do my best as a single human being. Yeah, is Fantom a competitor to ETH? I don't think anything. I don't really see these chains as a competitor to ETH. I think ETH will forever be like number one in terms of like TVL and like trust and like the developer community. These other chains are just trying to like, I guess, capture their share of the pie. But at the end of the day, like these chains have to have critical mass liquidity to be successful. So they have to have liquidity mining incentives. So that's what Fantom needs to do. I think that's what Fantom needs to do. Like I don't know how their team is structured. I don't know what they're doing, but if they want people to come on, then they have to start paying people, right? Like through tokens. Yeah, so poker anecdotes. So I guess before crypto, I played poker full time, and I have a bunch of poker friends who's also into crypto, and I thought this was a fun question. But when you're playing poker, you're I guess when you're studying poker, you're just like studying like the highest EV decisions, right? You buy Pio, you run simulations, and at the end of the day, like you just make sound mathematical decisions with the highest EV, right? Highest expected value, and you make money. So when it comes to crypto, you also have to make the highest EV decisions, right? I've been saying for a long time that I think we are in a sideways market, right? I think we're in a crab market. I mean, good God, we've been at 36K for like 3 to 4 weeks now. So who's outperforming? The stablecoin farmers. So that was my thesis. That's why I've been farming with stablecoins this entire time, and I have been outperforming the market, right? If the market turns risk on, then I will sell those stablecoins and buy volatile assets, right? That's the highest EV decision. And even for life, right? Like I was making a living through poker, but it wasn't that great. It wasn't like a great living. Like it wasn't like great income. So for me, like I thought the highest EV decision for my life was to focus on crypto and also focus on the startup I'm working on. I also own a coffee startup. I'm not gonna talk about it right now, but I own a coffee startup, and let's, instead of playing poker or sitting in front of a screen all day, let's get to know what DeFi and what crypto is all about, and then let's focus more on the business, because it's just like just do whatever is highest EV, right? Because you only live once. You gotta maximize the time you have. Yeah, I kind of went over it, but yeah, got into poker. But yeah, this is kind of redundant. Last question. What's the next? Sorry, what's the next move in terms of farming now that Aave got clapped, right? Got its ass clapped. Yeah, at the end of the day, like I said, I'm just starting to do my homework on other chains, right? You can't be a Polygon maxi. You have to be a yield maxi when you're yield farming, right? You gotta go to where the best yields are, right, on a risk adjusted return basis. And in the time being, that is still Polygon, but I'm open to the idea that if Fantom has a money market, I'll go there. If Arbitrum launches, I'll go there, even with the high fees. So in the meantime, I'm gonna go into the safer farms, the safer platforms, and once 0x launches, maybe I'll go there. Once Kyber launches, maybe I'll go there. You gotta be nimble. You just gotta be a yield max. You can't just like expect whatever farm you're in to like just perform over time. You gotta actively manage your positions and also like actively like look at the market, because I've been saying for a month now, stablecoin farmers will outperform. Stablecoin farmers have been outperforming. But if the market starts to pump, well, maybe those stablecoin farmers will not outperform. So maybe you should buy tokens, and maybe you should get into more higher risk farms, right? Like for example, this thing, right? Like these farms. Hold on. Like in a risk-on environment, I'm not gonna farm USDC, USDT. I'll farm things like Link ETH or like Aave ETH or Bitcoin ETH as well. Just because like if I think both assets will go up, then I might as well just farm with them, right? And hopefully my fees will cover the impermanent loss. But that's how I'm seeing it. So I'm gonna look at the chat now for questions. So feel free to ask me questions. Hopefully it's not full of shills and scams. But if you ask a good question, I'll answer it. Lastly, this is a good website called DeFi Llama. DeFi Llama. You can look at like all these chains, how much TVL it has. Like ETH has 84 billion. BSC has. I think this is a bug. I think it has more. Avalanche has 465, but it's mostly Pangolin, which is an AMM. So I feel like it's not really an ecosystem. It's just like one project that's like. So I don't really count Avalanche. Solana is good. Also looking at Solana, but like I said, this is more of like a longer term play for me. It's not something I'm exploring in the short term. In Fantom, yeah, I mean, Cream 15 mil, Curve 20 mil, and Spirit and Spooky. Yeah. Anyways, let's look at the questions. We've been going for like 55 minutes. Pretty good. Yeah. Any updates on DeFi? Hold on, let me adjust the camera. I stopped farming DeFi. Now I'm just vesting it. I'm just like holding it for the longer term. If it goes up, great. If it doesn't, then, you know, I just like, that was my opportunity cost on my capital. Let's see. Where can I send you potential farms to cover in my videos? I don't know, just tag me on Twitter, DM me on Twitter, and just like, okay, I get tagged in like all these Ponzi's every day. It's kind of annoying, but I guess that's what happens. But, you know, if you DM me like, hey, this is a farm, I think it can do well, here are the 3 reasons, then maybe I'll read your comments. Like if you're gonna just say like, hey, this is poly whatever, are you in it? Like I'm not gonna respond to you. Like that's just too much going on. And I'm not gonna answer any questions on like the tiny farms right now, just because I've made it clear I'm not gonna be in these smaller farms just because I just don't wanna get rugged. I don't wanna get rugged. I don't wanna get rugged. I'm a cash game player. I'm not good with tournaments. I might be at the World Series of Poker this year. Maybe I'll play one event, but I'll be playing cash like 2-5 and 5-10. That'll be cool. That'll be cool. Oh yeah. But I guess like when I played last year, I played online. I played like 100 and 200 NL. I think I was like one of the best 100 NL players online, at least in America. I mean, that's arguable, obviously. I mean, everyone thinks they're the best. But I was like an average rag at 200, and I was like, man, like, it's so hard. It's so hard. I'm just gonna focus on crypto now and like focus on the coffee business. DM me on Twitter. What type of Gitcoin grants are you planning to work with? I think the Rug Doctor is going to have Gitcoin grants, so I'm going to definitely donate to that. I might donate to VFAT as well, but I'm just, yeah, I'll probably make a video on like how to donate, but I'll wait until the Rug Doctor has her grant on. Then I'll do like a live video of like me donating money to her. She's great. Like without her, like we wouldn't be here, right? No, not 100 big blind. 100, 50 cent $1. I play like 6 tables. Favorite kind of coffee? Cold brew. I love cold brew. Let's see. Yeah, it's just hard to like answer these questions just because it's like 90% shilling things to me, and like I know what these are, and I just don't think they're good. So if I don't talk about it, I don't think it's good. If I ignore if you ask me like what my thoughts are on, let's say, I don't know, whatever farm, I just don't think it's good. It's not worth my time. Any other farming channels? Yeah, that's the thing. Like there aren't really that many great yield farming channels. Like I don't know why. Like, am I really the only one covering it in detail, right? Without shilling things. There's one channel called DeFi Walk, right? I think that channel is good. I don't know if it's like one guy or like a team of dudes, but I think they make pretty good videos. I think they only have like 10 videos. But outside of that guy, like, I don't really see any good ones. So like, if you want to start creating content, you should create content for yield farms. Do you think banks will utilize DeFi protocols? I think so. I think, well, first of all, I think Aave is going to be a bank at some point because Aave has like licenses in Europe to like be a bank, I think. And I imagine a world where Aave releases a debit card or a credit card linked to your like Aave account, right? Like that'll be insane. Like I'm like borrowing and lending on Aave and I can like pay with USDC while being paid like whatever the interest rate is. Like that's great. That's great. So I do think that these I mean, as more money flows in, these APRs will go down, right? That's just how that's how math works. But at the end, I mean, if we're at that point, then like Ethereum is trading at like 10K or something. So I'm like, I don't really need to yield farm at that point. Yo, yeah. I also like. I forgot to talk about Luna. I like Luna. I like the idea that you can farm with stocks, like synthetic stocks. Like I can provide liquidity for like Apple to USDC or UST, right? I think that's pretty interesting just because I feel like that's like one of the things you do in a bear market. You just like farm with stocks. Because stocks don't go up and down that much. So you can just like collect the swap fees, you earn mirror tokens, you stake Luna, you get mirror airdrops, you put some on Anchor. I mean, why not, right? But I'm not going to port funds to Luna just because there's Anchor and what's the other one? Yeah, Mirror, right? There's not enough apps on there. I like the flexibility of like Polygon where there's like new forms every day. There's a lot going on. It's really exciting, right? Like Iron Finance was very painful for most people, but it was very, very exciting, right? Everyone was talking about it. In hindsight, it's bad for DeFi, but yeah. Yeah. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap up the stream soon. So just so like for future reference, please ask me questions on the Google form because if you don't ask it here, then I'm probably not going to answer it just because the chat gets too hectic, and I kind of filter out like a bunch of the yeah, this DeFi. Yeah, I kind of filter out like the good and the bad questions, and I just like answer it here. So in the future, just use the Google form if you actually want me to answer your question. And if you're asking me questions like, are you planning to move to Fantom? Like literally like the video thumbnail was like planning for Fantom, right? So I'm gonna answer this question during the stream, like during my presentation. So there's no need to ask these like redundant questions. So please do that. And to wrap it up, please consider donating $1, right? $1 to my Gitcoin grants. You have to do it on the Ethereum blockchain, but you can. There's like I think it's called ZK Sync, where you can pay with using layer 2. It uses quadratic funding, so the more people that donate, the more I guess matching I get, and I have a whole thesis here. It's like all that, but yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll make a follow-up video on Gitcoin grants soon, but that being said, I thought it was a pretty good live stream. Spending the Saturday afternoon with you boys. I can only say boys because what is it? That's right. I'm assuming y'all are men. Yeah. Oh yeah, last question. How did I get into crypto? I'll wrap up the stream there. So, as a poker player, all poker players knew about Bitcoin like 5 years ago, right? Because like how people deposit money into poker sites was through Bitcoin, because like some banks, like they didn't want you to I guess deposit money into like gaming sites for like legal reasons, and online poker is banned in the US for most sites. So the only way to deposit was through Bitcoin. So I knew about Bitcoin in 2016. I didn't really care to learn about it. Obviously, I wish I did. But, I learned about Bitcoin. I actually like understood Bitcoin, I guess, August of 2020, where I bought my first ever like crypto purchase. And, I was like a Bitcoin maxi all of 2020 just because I just didn't know, right? I just like wasn't really aware of anything else. And I guess at the beginning of 2021, the poker games weren't that great. So I just had more free time and I just looked into, DeFi, right? What is Ethereum? And I try to, trade. I'm a bad trader. I'm like, I try to make some investments, but, I'm a professional bag holder as well. And I guess in April, I discovered, hey, like, what is my edge? I think my edge is in yield farming. And I think this is what I'm good at. And I'm going to make content around it. And here I am now. So if you think you can't make it as a video creator or content creator in crypto, like I literally got into DeFi this year. So I'm not like a pro by any means, but I do my research, I do my work, as you see, and people like it. So as long as you cover a niche that isn't covered widely on YouTube, and as long as it's good content, right? Like no one gives a shit about the next 100x gem. Like, sorry to break it to you, right? People just want to know like what's going on, like what should I do with my money, and like the last thing YouTube needs is another YouTuber covering Doge. That being said, I really hope there are better yield farming channels out there in the future. There are some, but I just don't think they're as good. Justin's a good one. DeFi Walk is a good one. There are other okay ones, but I don't want to show other channels unless I think they're absolutely great. So, yeah, that's my background. Thank you guys for watching. That's the end of the live stream. Hope to see you there. I hope to see you next week. And yeah, good talking.